Hello gang, it's Malik checking in, shirtless in Hawaii. You know what time it is? I'm gonna shoot every day moving forward. Might not be long, it might not be amazing, but there'll be content. If you're not familiar with me, I live in Waikiki. I like to interview interesting people. They don't have to be rich, famous, or specifically well known, but I like interesting, unique individuals, and I aspire to one day make some change through this channel. Hopefully, good. Anyway, I guess I could start by speaking on things that I aspire to do here or what life is like here. In Waikiki, it seems to be a good fit for me. I lived on Maui for a long time and was raised in the Bay Area, Berkeley, and also Washington State. But I've been in Hawaii for over 30 years. And on Maui, I definitely went through the gamut of emotions as far as being a troublemaker to being successful and then losing a lot. And I think my rise or like determination to do good was what helped me stand out a little bit, was just trying harder than other people and being really determined. And also my first son, Justice, who's 25 years old, inspired me to be not a piece of shit, I guess. But in 2020 with the pandemic, I struggled a bit. I had 4 stores and a food truck on Maui. They were ice cream, shave ice, and then health bars. And I was working on a big full service restaurant, and that was January 2020. So 2023, everything went down pretty bad, as we all know. Or March 2020, everything in Maui was forced closure, no tourists allowed. I mean, to the point where they put boards on top of public basketball hoops and told everyone stay inside. So I had to, I lost all my staff, whether, they were uncomfortable to work around people or whether there was just no people. And I kept one store open in Wailuku called Pharmacy Health Bar, spelled with an F. And the concept was vegetarian health food, that health food is medicine, medicine is food. I kept that one open throughout the whole pandemic because I didn't know what to do with myself. I was lost, for a lack of words. I didn't really know how to proceed without, I went from nothing at all to building a little like stand that gave out flowers and chips and otter pops and like made very little, to an actual little shave ice shop that had blown up to be, on television and did movies and Modern Fan, all these different shows, and it was really reputable. And then a second shave ice shop on Front Street, which the building is burned down since. And then I tried to do a third shave ice in Wailuku and ended up switching it to a health bar with some success, and then did another health bar in Pukalani. I had help on all of these all of my projects aside from the little box and the first shave ice shop, mostly financial investors, but also good people that help push the concept of food is medicine and healing people through food and giving out free food to homeless. We were the only store on Maui where you could go and get food without money, healthy food. And so that was something that was definitely beneficial. And I tried to keep that open during the pandemic, thinking, if anything, people really need food. And I was not for getting vaccinated, simply because I've never got a vaccination in my life yet, and this wasn't going to be the first one. And Not sure how I made it through my whole life without getting any shots, but my mother was pretty adamant about it and would sign all the religious exemptions or not allow it. And she pretty much raised me with health food and healthy tinctures and whatever the heck, I don't know. But she would cure any problem I've had. And then I pretty much, as a young man, started eating conventionally junk food, processed food, and then thankfully this health bar came along with just having, I guess I haven't ever been gluttonous, and the one thing that I would say, if I had any advice to give to anyone about health, which I don't know if I'm even qualified to give advice, but I would say that I do think I am actually. But it would be that you shouldn't eat so often, and that you can eat a huge feast, but it shouldn't be more than once a day. And you should probably only eat once a day if you really want to fine tune your body, trim all of your fat, and also once all of the food is digested out of your body, which I believe is 18 or 19 hours, the next few hours, if you cannot eat, are gonna eat toxins out of your body, because your body's gonna have to eat something, and it's not gonna eat the good stuff first. It's gonna eat all the bad stuff. That's the way your body's built. So I believe that it's very cleansing to only eat once a day, and if you can, don't even have sugar in your drinks throughout the day, because that will keep your metabolism from kicking on, and that's going to require energy to run that, even like sugar in your coffee or whatever in the morning. And I know that's extreme, but I think it's doable, because you can really eat like a cow or a beast or a pig, which I like to do once per day, but not gluttonously snacking on everything. We're not designed for this, and I don't believe that that's it's fun when you're bored to just eat chips or eat whatever, but it's really not how the human body is designed to function. And I think proof is in the rampant sickness and diabetes that is, diabetes should be called processed food disease, and you should really just try to eat fruits and vegetables and roots and meats and things that are actually, you can look at it and know what it is without having to read the box for ingredients. And I'm obviously not perfect in this, but if you can base a large portion of your diet there, then I think you're off to a good start. And then intermittent fasting, maybe even fast for a whole day and don't eat at all one day, which I rarely do, but at least just go down to one meal a day. And if you want to know the best time to eat, it's usually when the sun is getting near the water or the ground, and it's still in the sky though. Once it gets dark, you should probably try to rest with that, although I have trouble with that one as well. Living in Waikiki, it's a lot out the window, and a lot of fun out there. And I'm still young at heart, where I can't seem to grow up entirely, nor do I want to. Back to the story, which was I kept open pharmacy Wailuku for the whole pandemic and continued to feed homeless and, find purpose in as best I could. And then September 2020, things slowly started to open a bit, and they were getting a few people wanted to go out, and I thought, well, I'm going to try to do the restaurant, and I ambitiously went after opening a restaurant in Wailea before everyone else opened, and it was an adventure. It was problematic in ways, because although I had experience working at most positions in a restaurant, I had never handled all of that, plus the ordering and the books and the hiring and the firing and the management of people and the processes of the day-to-day. We were basically able to operate because I was there every day every shift all day and fixing any problem, whether it was climb on the roof to fix the hood, or figure out how to open the register, or refund some angry customer, or take advertise everything. It was really challenging, and it wore on me. Restaurants are difficult, and I think it's something that should be done by large teams. But just coming out of the pandemic, I didn't have a large team, didn't even have a bookkeeper anymore. So I was just really trying to salvage what had been lost. And although I had appeared to be and was successful compared to where I had come from, which was, arriving on Maui with only $40 to having all these stores, I didn't have a big nest egg in the bank because I had risked it all again on this Wailea restaurant, which I typically have done. Go all in on different projects and really believe in myself, because I don't really know how to have money very well, I don't think. I'd rather just live a little bit more humble and try to do big things with the money and get assets instead of just luxuries. In hindsight, I might have bought a house or land or any sort of thing rather than try to start another business. But hindsight is always perfect, and unfortunately humans are not. And I kept Wailea Kitchen open with a unique concept of vegetarian food. I started entirely vegetarian, and people would basically laugh and walk off. And so I added fish and prawns and venison, because I felt like those meats I could get from people I knew, hunters, kids. I could support them instead of buying from Cisco or big businesses. And it seemed to be a cool compromise, because it was the only upscale sit-down vegetarian-centric menu, which had everything from jackfruit tacos to vegan Alfredo made with macadamia nuts or cashews, and just health-minded food, organic wine list, sugarcane juicer at the bar, but mixing vodka and dragon fruit and mint, and really doing something unique, I thought. And I think maybe I was a little early. I believe it would work, and it maybe would have still worked if I was better at it, but I was definitely struggling with some areas. Like, I was known, because I had worked so much and so often and all the time, I was known as basically like this crazy person, soup Nazi, like person who I would kick people out of the restaurant and tell them I don't want your money, or if you go tip your wait, they'd get mad at the server or us, and I'd say, well, tip your server and apologize, give her $100 and I won't charge you, and leave and don't come back. I was very strange, and I don't think all of that, it was good and bad. Like, in a lot of ways, the location I had was damn near impossible to find. And so I needed to make a lot of press. And any press was good press in my eyes. I wanted them to talk about me all over the island. And I thought I had to be this, live, big personality, Chef Ramsay, crazy person, and I fit well with that. I didn't that's really my nature, so I definitely went there. And it was even a point when I was going to make it into one of those Karen restaurants where we would just be mean to people, because it was hard dealing with the uber rich in that area, and their expectations. And it was a definite learning curve while the community became accustomed to me and how I was going to run the restaurant, and how I was going to, and for me to be able to help cater to the customers I had. A little while into this, we had, during this whole thing, I had 10 months of closure for a Front Street location, Kihei location, Pukalani location, and Wailea, and all of them except for Wailea wanted all the rent. So I had to get loans, long 30-year loans that are not refundable, to pay off back rent that I didn't have a chance to make money. And that crushed me to a point where I was always fighting from underneath trying to get air, I'm sorry. And I definitely wasn't able to dig out, and luckily each one of these companies had been structured separately, and so I was closing them, and they weren't dominoing everything, but it was hard for me to deal with, at the end, trying to even just pay my staff out and appease the landlord and get out of different contracts to make this move over here to Waikiki, because obviously I was not prepared for some of those expenses, although I did make it over here. And I hope I'm not jumping around too much, but I'm really trying to tell my story of why I'm here and what I'm doing, and the past of experiences that led me to this place. So I'm 49 years old, which I believe is about 7 in dog years. Opposite. No, it's humans age in increments of 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. These are all been monumental times and changing points in my life where I either, big things happened and you make changes and you hopefully can advance and grow. So I'm 7 and I needed a change, and I had been on Maui for so long, and I was struggling financially but plugging along, and I had met a girl who I ended up falling for, and she was better natured than I, in the way that she wasn't into partying and was into spirituality and following the signs of the universe, and a bit witchy. And I, thought she was great, and she hadn't a lot of experience before me, and she was younger, as well. And I probably should have seen that as a problem, but my life, I have typically dated a bit where I would want to date rather than where I probably should date, but I enjoy a youthful, happy personality that's optimistic, and that's my excuse for dating young, hot, wonderful women, whom I am on record to saying that I am still on good terms with everyone I've ever been with. And they could always be better, but I don't believe in leaving someone down bad or worse than you found them. And I think people that you're close with, at some point you should stay you should keep something in your heart for them. Maybe, don't let them control you or get in your love life, but definitely you experience something close with them that you should respect in some way. Therefore, I try to treasure friendships, and even friendships that were built from past relationships. But I was enamored by this young lady, and she was well off, and that I think had something to do with making me feel comfortable in a way that if all this goes bad, then maybe I'll be okay. I'll just go do something with wifey. And by the way, there was a running joke that, how things became between us is she challenged me to be sober for a month, and I said that I would and could, but I didn't know if I could do it alone because, I'd be bored. And she said, well, I would move in with you and help you do it. And she did that. And that, of course, led to a relationship. And eventually she was saying that there was a running joke that we were going to get a divorce. And then she said she would marry me. And then I proposed. And so we were basically engaged. We were totally engaged for only about 6 months, until her best friend from high school came to visit, and we all went out and had fun, and had they took some sexy videos in the club, and the girl is pretty internet famous, and she posted it to her page or sent it somehow, not thinking it was bad because it wasn't. And her boyfriend at the time, who I guess is a hip hop artist, and I'm not gonna say any names, but wasn't cool with the video and thought there was something going on with all three of us, and broke up with her. And she ended up staying in Hawaii for a while with us over the expected trip. And her and I were cool, I think, but in a way I feel like she was judgmental of her friend's relationship and looking for things to kind of looking for red flags. And there were some red flags, definitely, like big age difference, and the fact that she was like this clean, goody rich girl, and I was, older bad boy who was trying to be good. And she pointed out some of those things to my ex, and it was sort of a difficult month where we all spent it together, but it was awkward and not really, we didn't have the same connection while her friend was there. And then she went on so her friend was really kind of throwing things to her like, hey, you could come live with me, and we could do a podcast, or you could go on this show, or I could do that. And my girl was aspired to be famous as far as in helping people, not as much for her own wealth, but she wanted to really help people, women specifically, go through things that she had went through or deal with it. And so she took this opportunity to go fly out and go on a big podcast, and I stayed behind. And when she was on the podcast, there were things I struggled with it, watching my girl go to, Los Angeles and dress in a way that I was worried about because of my own insecurities on television. And then there was like all these people, and it wasn't a good podcast. It was like this kind that was like this kind of disrespectful to them, I guess. And so were the call-in people and all the people commenting and stuff. And of course the topic of us and our relationship came up on the podcast, and I started feeling like, do I really want to be famous for things that I don't want to be famous for, or is this okay with me? And I had like an insecure moment where I was like not believing in everything anymore. And your mind is powerful and can create anything. And I did make a big mistake, or not a mistake, but I made an action which was not cool with her at the time, which was she was going to LA to shoot a podcast, and I called up a few of my female friends. Sorry, I think I just almost hit a low battery, but I'm still going. I called up a couple of female friends and said, let's go to Oahu and have a weekend. And I didn't tell Jules because she was already off doing her thing and ready to go, and I didn't plan on hiding it from her. But I definitely, and I didn't hide it from my messages or anything, and she ended up, looking through my phone because she was feeling some kind of way about it, and seeing that and getting a thought about it like I was a cheater, which I had not and did not and wouldn't have. I always made a promise to her that if I did make a mistake with infidelity, that I would tell her about it and be a man and face it. And I believe that you should be honest. The only reason you should ever lie is because you're scared, for someone else or for yourself. And so I still believe that first I didn't even go with the girls because they were busy, and I came to Oahu by myself and then went and partied with the boys. But it looked bad for her, and she was in LA and I was over here, and we talked on the phone, and basically it was obvious that she had come to a certain spot with talking to her friend and the conclusions that she thought I was up to no good. and I could sense it. And I told, I basically pushed the narrative and made it happen on the phone that is it over? Is it over? And she basically said, I'm not sure about it anymore. And so that was engagement off. And we had like a really beautiful goodbye because we never had fights and we never had problems. And when she came back to Maui, we had a very nice goodbye. But in the end, she chose her career or fame or friend or something over what I thought was really valuable. And I was heartbroken, like a sucker, like a little kid who lost his like junior high first serious girlfriend or something. And I was borderline questioning life, like what the fuck. Like I just pictured one life and then it was something else instantly. And I know that's really foolish because I'm not young and I should know this. So I just needed a change, and I just can't. I had the whole time in Oahu, I have been negotiating a lease with a friend of mine for a big idea I've always had, which is, health bar, nightclub, apprenticeship school, all wrapped up in one that's membership based. And it sounds like a lot, but somehow we got this building together where we had convinced these landlords with our reputations of modest success that we were applicable to take this building here. And so that became a thing. Like all of a sudden we got accepted for this lease, and I didn't feel like I felt like Maui was falling apart for me. Everything was so going down, and I just wanted to go have a new start. So I decided, and I spoke to my brother who lives over here already and is pretty successful, and he said, well, I'll give you a booth at my luau and you can cater food, but you have to be here and you have to like run it yourself and make sure it's good because you're the only one of these many chefs that doesn't have a big reputation over here, and you need to make sure it's good. And so I agreed to that, and I hastily closed everything on Maui and sold everything and put everything on shipping containers and dealt with as much shit as I could. But it was difficult after being there so long and then moving over here without a really solid place to be or plan or any of that. Just moving over here on a whim, staying in my friend's extra bedroom and all that. So it was rough. And then, of course, things are never what they seem to be in business as well. And there's a lot going on with our project here that is at risk of loss, if I can say that right, meaning we need more money. We need an investor. A lot of my potential money didn't pan out, and although I brought over this luau money that I'm working for and getting towards the club, and I, brought over enormous amounts of equipment to run everything, it still is a point where we need an investor to finish the job, and I'm having a bit of trouble figuring out if it's the right thing to do anymore unless I'm in control of this project, which it appears as if I'm not. And I know this has been a mouthful, but if you lasted this long, almost 30 minutes, then that means you probably give a fuck about this rant, or you're interested to see where it might go. And I thank you for that. I know that after leaving Maui, people said a lot of stuff, hopefully some good and most likely some bad. But I left really quick, and there were 2 rumors. I'm sure there's hundreds, or I don't know how many rumors there are of people wondering what happened, but I was definitely offended a bit as I left because I felt like I poured my heart into doing good by Maui after not being the most Pono person. Like early as a kid, I was a troublemaker, but I really felt as if I tried hard to do good on Maui, hire people, bring people up, start good businesses, feed people healthy food. And I had come from so many like misdemeanor arrests of selling fake weed or drinking as a kid or doing whatever, that I thought this was really an amazing story to go from so far down to going up to where I had a lot of businesses on such a prestigious island. But then the newspapers and the press didn't really share my care too. Some of them did, and I did get a couple little stories and write-ups, but when it came down to this pandemic thing where everything closed and all the loss, there was surprisingly no press. And as I closed everything, there was no press. And I probably should have announced stuff to the newspapers and said all this farewells and stuff, but I just expected for there to be some notoriety of it, and that was foolish of me, because when you leave or you die, you're just gone. And I don't think people think about us as much as we think they do. But the two rumors that I did hear on Maui that happened to me that I wanted to square up and squash was one guy who's supposedly a doctor, not a real doctor, but like a fucking shrink, supposedly told people that I had one, and this is a classic line that I'm going to use, I had one foot in the grave and the other foot on a banana peel. It's interesting. I'm not sure what it means. I think he's calling me a dumb monkey that's almost dead. I don't know what. Or just fucking up in one way and sick in another. But I think he was trying to say that he heard that I was terminally ill. And as you can see, I am not terminally ill. I still look the same way I did when I was fucking 18. And the second rumor I heard when I went back was that I had gotten in a fight with a security guard and stomped them till they died, and I was in prison. And that's just ridiculous. But maybe I did get in a lot of brawls as a kid on Maui, and I guess, you know, there's every action has a reaction. Sir Isaac Newton. I'm going to leave you with one observation that I've come up with recently, and that is, can you be anxious and grateful at the same time? Because if you're anxious, what are you thinking about? You're worried about yourself and what might happen to you. But if you're thankful, it's external, and you're thinking about everyone else and what's been done for you. I'm trying to not be anxious and to be thankful. And I have big plans over here. I'm going to make a lot of money and pay anyone I ever owed extra and then some. And I'm going to be fine. And I'm very lucky to have the friends and family that I have. And I guess this is it for day one of posting every day. I probably won't go this long, 33 minutes every time, unless I have a guest. But I will be checking in every day and not talking about myself. It's going to be talking about current events and hopefully things that can actually be beneficial for the listener. Not only that, but entertaining as well. That's the goal. Shirtless in Hawaii. Checking off. Chef Christopher Malik, with love.